Valley, hooey Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic can be a panic with just a good-looking pan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a plan. Hooray for Hollywood, where you're terrific if you're even good, where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck, you may be Donald Duck. Hooray for Hollywood.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich and Broadcasting premiere podcast. Damn you, Hollywood. And I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight we are discussing Snake Eyes, or Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins, or G.I. Joe Part 3, or This Movie Sucks, or Not Shang-Chi, whatever you like. And here, because he asked to do this, and I signed him up for it, and then he had amnesia and forgot and turned it around and was like, I'm being made to do this. No, you asked to do this, and I can show you the text. Ladies and gentlemen, the prodigal son, Jason Teasley. How do you do, sir?
I'm doing good. Even though some of these movies are really jeopardizing mine and your friendship.
You asked to do this. I didn't make the movie.
Well, I mean, I still think that I was, if I asked to do this, it was strictly under distress. You or Winfrey threatened my kid or something. That's the only way that I think I would agree to do this after seeing the movie.
Contractual obligation. That's what we're going to go with.
Yeah, I think this is one of the ones that Robert said he could tap out on, so it automatically shifted to me.
There you go. Like I said, I like having a deep bench. Look, you've always wanted to be a utility player on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, and now you are.
I've always been a utility player. Not a very good one, but I've always been available.
Well, you're not drunk and or dying, at least not yet, not on this podcast. So we'll see, but the night is young. We'll see where it takes us.
True. This is true.
So you asked to do this, as I said, and we've joked about it already. I can move on from this now. This will be the second time, in fact, today that I've made that joke on air. But I did want to know, when you said, hey, you can put me on for Snake Eyes, is it because you were a huge G.I. Joe fan? Were you at all interested in this movie? Or it was just like, hey, slot me into anything where Winfrey and Alexis aren't, that isn't a horror movie?
No, I mean, honestly, I grew up on G.I. Joe. I was a big G.I. Joe fan growing up, and surprisingly, I was a big Cobra fan, I guess you could say, because for some reason I always gravitated toward the villains. That's why me and Winfrey gets along so good, because he's a heel. But I was a Storm Shadow fan. In all honesty, it's legit. I was a Storm Shadow Snake Eyes fan. I like both of them. I like the dynamic of them, especially the backstory they had in the cartoon. Growing up, from what I remember, that went strictly out the fucking window in this. But yeah, I mean, I like Joe. I like that, just that fun Saturday morning cartoon that you could just lose yourself in the G.I. Joe universe. You had such colorful characters, and the villains who I always kind of rooted for, because I don't like really goody goodies. So that's why I kind of gravitated towards Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, because they was basically mercenaries in the whole Joe universe. So that's what brought me to this. And then seeing this, I had high expectations. The first teaser trailer came out. I thought it was interesting. Boy, was I wrong. Yeah,
so
I hated life.
I was a big G.I. Joe fan growing up too. Not as big as I was Transformers. That was my shit back in the day. It's kind of like Transformers, He-Man, and then G.I. Joe, and then Thundercats, and then Voltron. Again, I'm born 76, so this was all stuff of my childhood. And I I watched G.I. Joe. I enjoyed it. My dad kind of ruined it for me. He was like 1,000 rounds of laser ammunition going in every direction and nobody gets hit. What is this bullshit? And let's talk about Randy Macho Man Savage for a moment. Right, that's a whole other podcast. But so like I never like, because of that, I never really bought into as much with G.I. Joe. But I'll tell you, like growing up, I'm the son of an Army kid. My dad was in the military for a long time. His friends were all military guys. So like growing up in the 80s, and this ties into, I think, the problems with G.I. Joe now. We all grew up with fathers who were military guys in the 70s. And I think the kids of the 80s, especially with G.I. Joe being at the forefront, really, you know, there was a heroism and a, you know, just the word I'm looking for here, but the military was definitely made into this fantastic heroic thing that boys dreamed about doing. Like, I don't know if you're around my age, but I don't know if you had these as toys, like the little green, you know what, you saw them in Toy Story, the little green plastic army men.
The green army men, yes. I grew up in a military family, so yeah.
So I had all of those, and we used to play with those things. Like, there was definitely in that era of time, like the military was this great, big, wonderful, positive thing.
Yeah.
It isn't really that anymore, and I don't think kids see it that way, which is, again, is a problem when you're trying to push G.I. Joe as a franchise, but we'll get there. In any case, that's how I grew up. I didn't read the comic book, though I did read G.I. Joe versus Transformers when that came out, that 4-issue limited series, which was fun. I've seen all the movies. In fact, I rewatched 2 of them today with my kids, and we'll be doing an examination of that in a few days on Long Road to Ruin with Sean Comer. I've watched G.I. Joe the movie. That alternative commentary is up in the archives now. But I've heard like all the cool kids like the web series G.I. Joe Resolute. Have you heard of this?
No, I have not.
Oh, check out G.I. Joe Resolute. I've watched a little bit of it. I got to go back and finish it. From what I understand, it's like the best representation of G.I. Joe ever captured on any kind of film.
So people die. So that means people die. There's snakes as hands. There's a shiny domed guy who has a chrome plated head. So if all this is true, I'm all in. I'm buying into it.
Yeah. I'll have to sit down and watch G.I. Joe Resolute one of these days. But real quick, what did you think of? I won't talk about it too much because we're going to get further into this a little later in the week. But what did you think of the 2 live action G.I. Joe movies? I know the big criticism at the time were, hey, G.I. Joe's a real American hero, not a real NATO hero. And everyone who was like just to the right of center was like, fuck this shit. So it didn't start off on the right foot, but go ahead.
I wasn't a fan. I mean, I watched them, but you know, I really did not enjoy them because I think it damaged my childhood much more than Michael Bay did.
Okay.
And we'll get into that, I'm sure, a little bit later when I have some things to say. But I mean, the movies tried. I mean, they at least made the effort. The first one was a swing and a miss. The second one was a let's try this all over again with bigger name actors and a more convoluted storyline. And I mean, it both were big swings and misses. They had some positive aspects, but as a whole, it was just I just wasn't a fan.
Yeah, I think they were trying for. You're talking about a very Americanized IP. They were trying for a more worldwide audience because they wanted it to make big money, and they missed both targets. And I'm not entirely sure how you do G.I. Joe, a real American hero, for a worldwide audience these days. Not to mention the fact that I don't know if there's an audience for this now that isn't between 35 and 55. And I don't know how many of those 35 to 55-year-olds, unless you give them literally the cartoon come to life, like with no changes, I don't even know how many of those people at this point go back and watch it. So, I mean, and I don't want to get off on a tangent here, especially because I haven't seen it yet. But I mean, look at what, the new He-Man, the He-Man was supposed to be for, yeah, I know. The new He-Man was supposed to be for, our age group, and everyone our age group fucking hates it. So, I just don't know if it's like a disconnect between people in Hollywood thinking they know what us nerds want and not knowing, or them not being capable of producing something that we'd like. Which brings us to Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins.
My problem with that is, and I don't know how soft people will be when I say this, is the fact that you've got a terrorist organization, but you got to pander to everybody, and you can't make the bad guys too bad, and you can't make the good guys too good, which is the complete opposite of the property of G.I. Joe. The G.I. Joe is America is the greatest thing ever. Anything else outside of America is bad, and we hate terrorists. Now it's you got to try to make things that pander to a worldwide audience, and you're not going to do that with a very, very pro-American property. I mean, it's just going to be hard to pull off.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, so let's get into Snake Eyes here. A quick plot summary. All right. A young boy is orphaned when his father is murdered. Years later, the boy has grown up into a talented and deadly martial arts fighter, driven by a desire to avenge his father. To conceal his true identity, he calls himself Snake Eyes because the movie has to happen. A name inspired by watching his father's murderer force him to roll a pair of weighted dice to determine his fate, killing him when he rolled double ones because things have to be forced into this like a turducken. Discovered in an underground Los Angeles fighting circuit, a wealthy Yakuza boss, Kenta, offers to find his father's killer if Snake Eyes will work for him. When Snake Eyes is asked to prove his loyalty by shooting a man who betrayed Kenta's trust, Snake Eyes refuses and instead helps the traitor escape. The traitor is Kenta's cousin, Tommy. Tommy and Kenta were both in line to lead the Arashikage clan in an ancient ninja society devoted to preserving order and fighting evil. Kenta sought to kill his cousin, but failed and was banished. Grateful to Snake Eyes, Tommy takes him to his ninja dojo, like you do, in Japan, and asks that he be initiated as a member. The current clan leader, Sen, Tommy's grandmother, agrees to let Snake Eyes undergo 3 trials to determine if he is worthy. The clan's head of security, Akiko, doesn't trust Snake Eyes at first, but he wins her trust by revealing his father's murder and explains that this is why there is no recorded history of him. Unbeknownst to anyone, Snake Eyes plans to betray his new allies like you do. Tommy's attempted murder and escape is shown to have been staged by Kenta in order to get Snake Eyes close enough to steal the clan's most sacred treasure, the MacGuffin. I mean, the Jewel of the Sun, which has magical powers, because of course it does. Anyway, so Snake Eyes finds himself increasingly torn between his guilt over betraying Tommy and his clan and his overwhelming desire for revenge. He passes the first 2 trials with his exceptional talent, but the third and final trial requires that he take on magic snakes. His spirit to be tested by sacred anacondas who can sense if he is truly pure of heart. Due to Snake Eyes' secrets, the snakes attack him, but Akiko saves him from being killed. Confronted by the clan, Snake Eyes admits that he has not been entirely honest, but manages to hide the true reason he is there. As a consequence, he is expelled. Snake Eyes returns in secret and steals the jewel using his knowledge of the clan's temple, delivering it to Kenta. Kenta explains that he is stealing the jewel on behalf of a terrorist revolutionary organization, Cobra. Cobra, through the liaison, the Baroness, has been arming Kenta with weapons so he can seize control of the Arashikage clan. Snake Eyes receives his reward for stealing the jewel, his father's killer, who turns out to be a Cobra agent. Having realized what his bloodlust has cost him, Snake Eyes spares the man and instead goes back to the Arashikage clan to warn them of Kenta's attack because, of course, he does. This is so stupid. Anyway, almost done here. Tommy puts aside his anger and lets Snake Eyes assist him and the clan's warriors, including Scarlet, a member of the international peacekeeping organization G.I. Joe, in fighting off Kenta's men. After Kenta admits that he has no intention of handing over the jewel, the Baroness forms a temporary alliance with the Arashikage clan and Scarlet. With his men defeated, Kenta loses the jewel to Tommy, who in his fury tries to use its power to kill his cousin. Kenta manages to escape, but Snake Eyes traps him in the Anaconda Pit, where the snake devours Kenta upon sensing his evil spirit. They judge Snake Eyes to now be pure of heart, sure, for forgoing his revenge, and thus worthy of joining the ninja clan. After the battle, Sen tells Tommy that he is no longer fit to lead the clan as he broke his vow to never use the jewel. Except that, never mind. Enraged at losing his birthright, Tommy forsakes the clan, his family, and even vows to kill Snake Eyes should they ever meet again. Snake Eyes meets with Scarlet, who explains that his father was a G.I. Joe agent, because of course he was. She offers Snake Eyes a chance to become a Joe, because we have to make sure that Luke and Leia are with the right people at the end of the story. Sorry, that different movie. In a mid-credit scene on a private jet leaving Japan, the Baroness recruits Tommy into Cobra as he rechristens himself Storm Shadow, because of course he does. All right, Jason, this is your time. Get on the right side. You'll be godlike.
Oh, so let's go ahead and let's tackle this. Rule number 1: the family jewel should never be used as evil. We want to make sure that you use your family jewels for good, not evil. This was a convoluted mess. This was a train wreck out of anywhere. Let's start off with the whole roll credits in the first 10 minutes of the movie of how he gets the name Snake Eyes from a fucking dice game that kills his father.
Yeah.
I really love the fact that I was the only person in the theater watching this, and the manager of the theater has kind of got to know me, because I'm pretty sure people in the hallway heard me go, "Oh, for fuck's sake, please." So when I was leaving, she just waved and gave me a little chuckle, and she said, "How'd you like it?" I said, "If I wasn't here for free, I'd demand my money back." And she just kind of chuckled and laughed. But this movie, it was trying to be so many things, and it couldn't be one thing. The best part was I was really hoping when they dropped him down the snake pit and it showed the anacondas, Sir Mix-a-Lot just kicked in and started saying, "My anaconda don't want none." Because that would have been great. At that point, I also thought that they spliced in a scene from Harry Potter with the giant snake. I mean, literally, this place was all over the place. It's like they hired a 10-year-old with ADHD and forgot to give him his Ritalin as he wrote the script. It had a good basis where it was going, but it went off the rails quickly. And it could have been a good revenge story, and they would have just played it out slowly. But within the first half of the movie, you had betrayal. The Snake Eyes you learned that Snake Eyes is actually a Cobra agent, and technically Storm Shadow, or Tommy, who later becomes Storm Shadow, is actually on the side of the Joes, and that's just fucked up in itself. And it's just like they could have done this movie, kept the basis. He saves Tommy's life. He's brought in. Don't try to have the whole love interest that's half-ass forced with cream of some young guy in this. Yes, I'm pretty sure that probably came off as racist, but what can you say? But it's like everything was so forced. It was like a Hulk Hogan match where he has to get his shit in. So the whole Cobra aspect, I think they leaned in too hard on it. Trying to introduce, aspects of the G.I. Joe IP to be like, oh yeah, just so you know, this is a G.I. Joe movie. We need to have the Baroness, and we need to have, Lady Jack.
Like there are no other members of Cobra. There's no Dr. Mindbender, no Major Blood, no Destro, no Serpentor, no nobody. There's only been the Baroness and a bunch of nameless, faceless Cobra agents.
This is how this should have played out, and I'm going to get into something about the whole Snake Eyes character. If they would have took the Baroness out and made it the twins as like the leaders of a crime syndicate, I think that would be an awesome. Because
you're talking about like Tomax and Zaymot?
Yes.
Okay.
If they would have been like the leaders of like a crime syndicate that worked for Cobra, and just leaned into them because they're well enough known characters to get that nostalgia, but they're not so much of a big name that you're going to waste them in a movie by shoehorning them in. So you could have done the Cobra aspect completely different. I think the Baroness was completely wasted in this.
I was gonna say, or what about like Zartan's fucking flunkies? You know, like
Yeah.
the punk rock, his punk rock goons. Like, just give them an update and make them, you know, and make them another rival gang to the Yakuza that's operating in Japan.
Yeah, I mean, you could have just, but I think they tried to lean in too hard. Another thing that I hate about this, and this goes back to my coin op days of playing a very popular video game, of Street Fighter. And I read this somewhere, I can't remember where it was. The basis of Ryu and Ken was based on Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes because it was a Westerner, a foreign Westerner that they trained together, and then pretty much the layout of um, Street Fighter, they go their separate ways. One gets egotistical, one stays true, and that causes it. Because up until this, Snake Eyes wasn't
One sec.
seen.
Romanticize. That's the word I was looking for earlier.
Okay.
We romanticize the American military. Thus, G.I. Joe was born. I'm sorry. Please continue.
But Snake Eyes didn't speak. He was originally a white male who trained with Storm Shadow, and then they kind of went their separate way. They had a falling out, went their separate ways. Storm Shadow became a mercenary. Snake Eyes was on a redemption path to try to bring him back to the good side, the light. And they just always had respect, but an internal conflict. You felt nothing there. Like, absolutely, there was no chemistry between these two actors. There was like one of them could die, and you would have been like, the other would have just been like, oh well, because they didn't have that chemistry to play off of each other. It's like all their lines together seemed forced. The facial expressions were deadpanned on most line deliveries. And I haven't seen and Robert Winfrey's going to love this. I haven't seen a more convoluted, not possible, defy all physics car scene since the Fast and Furious movie.
That's the best scene of the movie.
If you take a car off of a car hauler in reverse, it will not continue to go that same speed. If you jump off of a motorcycle while it's running, when you land on it, the weight distribution will throw you off balance and you may possibly die and become road pizza. This defies all logic and all physics. I really expected Dom Toretto to show up and pull up and say family and then just drive off.
Family.
But I mean, this movie, if they would have just picked a narrative and just stuck to it instead of shoehorning stuff in, this could have been a really good movie. The action sequences were very nice. The fight scenes were believable. But I don't think that they could pick a lane to drive this movie home on.
All right, so a couple of things. One, despite how stupid and how like according to physics it is, I really do enjoy. Like, my kids and I all agree because my kids loved it. I thought it was boring and stupid, and I was just like, well, I'm sure I'm going to hear it from Jason now, and I did. But my kids were having a good time with it, and then considering like the idea for a lot of these movies is to build new fans that'll be with them for years on end, not us old fogies. Successful there, and I'll tell you, they like this better than they like the other two G.I. Joe movies, which I showed them today, and that might be because I showed them to them back to back, so who knows. But I know the first one they did not love, and they preferred Snake Eyes better. But the thing we all agreed on is what I was getting at was that car chase scene at the end of the movie. That I really did enjoy, but I like a good stupid stunt show. Couple of things that first of all, I agree with basically with everything that you said. I feel like the story that they gave Snake Eyes was a single-minded pursuit of the man who killed his father, to the point where he makes egregious mistakes and causes problems with relationships and betrays people. And then it's like, oh, well, I'm sorry. And then like forgives, and then he finally gets what he wants. He gets the killer dead to rights. And he's like, I'm not going to kill you because I'm not a bad guy. Okay. But everything every decision you have made has been bad, and everything you've touched, you've destroyed. You've completely messed up this family that brought you in and trusted you. So what are we supposed to derive from that by the end of the movie? That Snake Eyes is a good guy that we should root for? No, that he's a shithead. And it's like, that's the thing is, by the end of it, I don't feel like he's had any kind of a hero's journey. I just feel like this shitty guy got to this, is trying to I'm more interested in now the next story that they're going to tell with these two, which they're not because this didn't make any money. But like him trying to bring Storm Shadow back after he fucked him out of his family is a much more interesting story, and the basis for the actual quote unquote story between Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. That Storm Shadow got passed over to lead the clan. Snake Eyes was the favorite son, even though he wasn't the blood relative, and Storm Shadow got pissed and joined Cobra. So like again, and this is, and I've mentioned this before. I mentioned it with Cruella. I've mentioned it with a bunch of different movies. I really hate prequels. I hate this trend in Hollywood. It's never done well. A lot of it, this was right out of the George Lucas school of prequels, where everything, no matter how inorganic it is, no matter how unnatural it is, everything has to be forced into a particular spot so that it can be there and ready for when the story we all know picks up. I hate that. It's lazy, terrible writing. And that's so much of this movie. And things like you send a contracted killer to kill a military operative who's on the run, and he's like, I'd like to give everyone a fighting chance. No, you don't. No, you don't. You just go in there. Yeah. How he wasn't they had to write this ridiculous beginning to get we have to have a reason he has his name. Like it's like the Black Widow thing. She needs to have a reason to have that vest in Infinity War. So we'll write one in. Stuff like that. Like I hate it. It's awful. And so so he can't just be Snake Eyes because it's a cool sounding name. He can't just be Snake Eyes because he took a vow of silence and he wears a ninja helmet and all of that. And so, he's concealing his identity. No, he's Snake Eyes because of the stupid way they wrote the beginning of the movie. Again, you create a situation where Storm Shadow is actually the hero of this thing. And by the end of it, he's a tragic figure. And you're supposed to be rooting against him because he fucking joins a terrorist organization, except that by the end of this movie, I'm on his side. I'd want to kill Snake Eyes too. I'm with you, brother.
And that was what I was getting ready to ask to see. This movie was so sympathetic toward Storm Shadow,
right?
Because what did honestly through this movie, what did Storm Shadow do wrong? He brought in somebody who saved his life, treated him like a brother, welcomed him into a exclusive, basically Japanese mafia.
Wait, I was going to say, I have a better, the Ashkahagi clan, the Oshkosh, whatever it is, they're ninjas, but are they also Yakuza? Because this is the thing, he's working for the Yakuza boss, and then through a convoluted explanation later on in the movie, I guess, the story there is they're competing for, they're cousins, and they're competing for leadership of the Yakuza, and it's a twofold thing where he wants to shoot Tommy in that one scene in the beginning, the big scene that's in the trailer that everyone sees. But he also, it's a setup so that Tommy will trust Snake Eyes and bring him in so that they can steal the jewel. But I'll talk about that in a second. But that's the thing. It's like, well, are you ninja? Are you Yakuza? Are you both? And here's the thing. You can't be both. They're not the same thing. Like Yakuza and ninja, I understand to the degree that we're dealing in fantasy. It's like it can be what they want it to be, but it doesn't make any sense. Ninjas are not drug dealers. Yakuzas are.
What I think it was, and this is how I perceived it, I could be wrong, they're the traditional ninjas. The cousin who was involved with the Yakuza would be taking over that to bring the clan in as basically the hired muscle for the Yakuza. That's how I perceived it, because he would get control of the clan, which would control everything between the two, the Yakuza and the clan would control everything.
He was trying to intermesh the ninjas into the Yakuza. Sure.
Yeah, and basically have them as the muscle. And don't even get me started by the whole basket caves of knives in a truck. That made absolutely no fucking sense, because Snake Eyes can't kill nobody, but he'll sure the fuck run over somebody.
And so let's talk about again, everything in this movie is forced, but let's talk about Akiko, who they invented for this movie, and because every captain of the guard now has to be a girl. By the way, that's a trend in Hollywood. Men who are typically bigger, stronger, more physical, more able to do physical guarding duties. No, give that job to the women who are typically weaker, not able to perform those duties as well. They're always the captain of the guard. It's fine. Women and men are built completely biologically equal. It's great. Anyway, so Akiko, who is captain of the guard, and immediately does not trust Snake Eyes. Her whole thing is, I don't trust him. He's an outsider. Tommy, this is a bad decision. Tommy, you're making a terrible decision. Tommy, I don't understand what you're doing. Snake Eyes gets thrown into a pit of snakes that are telepathic and will know if he's telling the truth or not, have decided you're a lying sack of shit and you might be here to steal some shit. So let's kill you now. And she jumps in there and saves him because what? No, why? The whole movie, she was like, this guy is shit and you're dumb for bringing him here. And when the snakes agree with her, she's like, oh, let's make sure you're safe because the movie has to happen and you're the hero in the title card.
Yeah, and the whole how did you get that scar? that then suddenly I got it the last time I trusted a guy. What the fuck? Are you serious?
Because men are terrible and they'll hurt you, Jason. Don't you understand?
And then somehow Snake Eyes went from living on the streets, being scrubbed, being a ghost on the streets, to becomes this underground street fighter. Then he gets a sacred sword and becomes the fucking sword master, fucking Donatello, or Leonardo, or one of the goddamn Ninja Turtles. How
about the Highlander? Can we go with that?
Sure. There can only be one. But, I mean, then he becomes a sword master.
Yeah.
Because it helps move the point along. Or in your words, because lobster. And it's like he becomes this like strategic fighter stealth guy when he was just a hood rat on the streets fighting underground before the Yakuza recruited him. And you're like, how did you get from point A to point X without going to anywhere in between?
I can see why like Skydance and Paramount greenlit this, Like we have this property, it's made money in the past. People know what it is, so let's try to refresh it for a modern audience. And I think there was an opportunity here to tell an interesting story. I mean, I think the movie suffers from one, poor timing. This is coming out at the same time as Shang-Chi, and unless you're like my son, who's like, more ninja movies, please. Like most people are like, I'll wait for the Marvel one. Number one. Number two, like I said before, I don't think starting with the Snake Eyes movie, unless it's utterly divorced from everything G.I. Joe and it's just about this guy, which was one way to do this. Instead of doing the Baroness and Scarlet, by the way, who's utterly ineffectual in this movie, other than yet another redheaded hero who shoots stuff and is, she's just a perfect hero. It's fine. She's fantastic. But as a character, as a human being, utterly ineffectual, utterly vacant. But anyway, but she was on the cartoon, so she had to be in the movie. If they had no Scarlet, no Baroness, no Cobra, and it's just about the relationship between Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, I think I think you can start to build on that, because I think as a point of view character, I think you can capture kids' imagination with Snake Eyes. He's a cool looking character. He wears all black. He's a ninja. He doesn't talk. He's very mysterious. His arch enemy is a ninja who wears all white and has 2 swords. It's cool to look at. And if you just focused on that instead of trying to serve all these other masters and and set this up for a story we haven't even seen yet, we only know about it from its previous iterations as a cartoon or whatever, then I think this might have been better. But instead, like you said before, it served way too many masters. It was way convoluted. There's too much stuff forced in. And then what we do get is, because I could almost forgive all of that if anybody in this entire movie had a decent relationship for me to focus on. They build a kind of sort of romance with Snake Eyes and Akiko. You and I have more sexual chemistry than they did. And I'm sorry, that's if you're gonna have a romance on screen, even one that's as sort of dull as this one, your actor should have at least some sexual chemistry. They have none. He had more sexual chemistry with the guy playing Storm Shadow. But again, just to kind of wrap this up and move it on, by the end of this movie, you should be in a place where you want to see more stories with Snake Eyes. So, if you want to introduce him to the greater G.I. Joe universe, that's fine. But your audience should be like, oh my God, this was so good. I want to see more Snake Eyes. Not, I feel bad for Storm Shadow. Snake Eyes is shitty. When's Shang-Chi coming out?
Right. And that's something that needs to be explored. I mean, you could have still had the Cobra aspect, but not beat you over the head with the Cobra aspect. You could have just had the, because honestly, when they do the fight and they find the weapons cache, and you just see the crate with the logo on it. If they
I was gonna say that's what Marvel did. Right. Marvel would occasionally have a billboard that says "Roxxon" in the background.
Yeah, if you would have just kind of just put the Cobra logo places, or you could have just just mention this crime syndicate that has a stronghold over the Yakuza, and they're a world dominating crime syndicate. Just kind of leave little crumbs throughout the movie,
right?
Not beat you over the head with it, saying, "Look, this is Cobra. We have Cobra. Look over here, right here's Cobra. This is why it's G.I. Joe. Here's Cobra."
Right.
I mean, and you're like, if you would have just sprinkled it in, I think you would have got a lot more.
I was gonna say, my kids don't know what G.I. Joe is. This is not something that's relevant to them. They barely know what the Transformers are. They have no fucking clue what He-Man is. And the only reason why my daughter knows She-Ra is because they did do a show with She-Ra on Netflix, which she did watch. But G.I. Joe doesn't have a tremendous amount of relevance to children. So again, you're in with kids now is to make the ninja stuff cool. Because my kids know ninjas. They go to ninja school. Parkour. But that is a relevant term to them. So make this a movies about warring ninjas, and I think you've got something, and then you dribble in the G.I. Joe stuff later.
Right.
And I think you have a winning formula. This just assumes that your audience knows what the hell you're talking about, and that is a bad assumption. G.I. Joe is basically a dead property outside of 40-year-olds. And 40-year-olds want it to be literally the cartoon come to life, not anything else.
Minus Channing Tatum. But, I mean, this is what, we're going to do a script doctor here. If you would have took the roles of the Yakuza and you just sprinkled in some operative of Joe that recruited Snake Eyes to infiltrate this organization.
Right.
they've already established that they're going to be in bed with Cobra, so you have a definite good side, bad side, and Snake Eyes is just being basically playing a mercenary that's infiltrating to get intel. This fixes this movie a hell of a lot. And have
Right.
the last scene could have been, you know, Snake Eyes trying to escape to get back. He's discovered that he's an operative. He's trying to get out. They land somehow. His rally
Yes.
point is on top of a snow-covered mountain.
You know what the story you're telling? The story you're telling is Donnie Brasco. This needed to be Donnie Brasco with ninjas.
That would have been cool. But yeah, like the last shot being that, Tommy, aka Storm Shadow, finds out, hunts him down before he can get out of the rally point on a snow-covered mountain, and you have this epic one-on-one ninja battle. Tommy is ready to kill him, and then you hear the infamous line, just for the fanfare, "Yo, Joe," as a helicopter comes up over the horizon. Storm Shadow makes a beeline into the snow because he's dressed in all white. He makes a beeline and disappears into the snow. Snake Eyes is rescued, gives the intel over.
Right.
Roll credits.
You have Scarlet be the contact for GI Joe and have her be like the handler and be like,
Right.
you can basically do a similar structure to this movie. She finds him fighting, but not the stupid revenge tale. Why can't he just be an orphan? His dad was his dad was a drug addict. His mom was a dope fiend or a whore. They died when he was younger. He grew up fighting. He's been in and out of gangs, and now he, because he has somewhat of a conscience, he just makes his money doing, underground fighting, and he's gotten like a bit of a reputation. And that's when Scarlet, finds him and says, "Hey, we need somebody, who can infiltrate this Yakuza clan that's headed up by Tommy and go from there." And he wants to keep getting out, and she's like, "No, you can't," because and then you can even have it be like, "We suspect they're tied to this terrorist organization, but we don't know, and that's the point of your intel. We don't even just want to take we want to find out where this terrorist organization, what it's doing, and how much control it has."
Or even better, have the end be Tommy blinds Snake Eyes,
right?
So he has to don the helmet. And he takes a vow of silence until he sees the good that's in Tommy.
Well, I was saying, didn't Snake Eyes actually have like a throat injury, which is why he couldn't talk?
I thought he took a vow of silence. I thought it was a vow of silence, like the monk vow of silence is what happened.
Either way, you could go either way. He's either injured or he took a vow of silence because of the relationship with Storm Shadow. Either way.
We could go with a throat injury because you got Bumblebee. The Bumblebee movie exists.
It certainly does.
So I mean, same IP, same property. It's not a far reach for that. But yeah, I mean, you could have fixed this movie to have the definite good instead of trying to make it as espionage, Ocean 11. 15 million twists.
Oh my God, the stupid jewel. What this movie did not need was magic.
Right.
As soon as it was like, there's a magic rock, and I'm like, fuck you, Hollywood. There's a reason why we started calling the show Damn You Hollywood back in 2016, 2017, whenever it was, where we made the conversion from the summer blockbuster series to Damn You Hollywood. Because like Robert and I were saying it constantly, like why Hollywood? Why? And we're like, oh, that's funny. We should just call it Damn You Hollywood. But this is the reason why, because everyone looks at Marvel as as the end all be all, and they're like, oh, Marvel had magic rocks. People must like, and that movie made $1 billion. People must like magic rocks. And so there's a magic rock in the movie.
And the fact that you have, and I said this in our chat, you have the geriatric woman that can fight ninjas off with a fan. You have the pandering that's more over the top than Avengers Endgame, with the 3 females taking on a room full of
You know,
ninjas.
in defense of that, though, that was the whole movie. Every single scene of fighting was 20 guys versus 1 or 2, and the 1 or 2 always won.
Yeah, I mean, it was ridiculous, and the fact that you have Scarlet look at Baroness and go, "I guess we can make a truce for now,
Right.
a temporary truce." You're like, no, you literally hate each other. Like, there's no truce. You would
Well,
probably
they totally
one
wrote,
would
but they
kill
totally
the other.
wrote that in there because they were like, but there is some weird affection in Hollywood for the Baroness, and like we need strong, sexy female characters, and we don't quite have enough in G.I. Joe for some odd reason. So we need to keep shoehorning the fucking Baroness in there. It's ridiculous. But all right, I'm gonna give you. We've had a nice conversation, but we've been at it for about 45 minutes now. So I'm gonna give you kind of the last word to wrap it up, and then we'll jump into the money and then Rotten Tomatoes. But before we do, I do want to remind everybody that Amazon Music is one of our great sponsors here, and we are giving away a free 30 days of Amazon Music. If you want to hear the cool song that was in the trailer, which, by the way, I played that for my kids. A lot of swear words, which I didn't know were in there because you only hear a portion of it in the trailer. But if you want to hear that song and you don't have kids around or you don't care if they hear swear words, it's on Amazon Music. So go ahead and click our link at getamazonmusic.com/W2M network, and you'll get a free 30 days, and you can check it out for yourself. And when you don't want to listen to that anymore, you can find the G.I. Joe theme song, because I'm sure that's on there, or whatever else you're into listening to. Free 30 days on us. You don't like it, you cancel it after 30 days. No fuss, no muss. You do. You pay the monthly fee like you would for Spotify or Apple Music. It's a great service. Highly recommend it. Your last words on this, sir.
If you want to see a better origin story, which the bar is not set high, go watch X-Men Origins Wolverine, because it's a much better origin story than Snake Eyes. At least it has some sort of narrative, not a very good one, but at least,
I mean, yeah, I actually
fleshes
defended
it
that.
out.
We didn't. One of the first week we were part of the W2M network was Wolverine week, and I actually, because we started off with W2M network the week of Old Man Logan. So as part of the now defunct theme week that went on for several years, that are now not going to be a thing anymore. The on trial for that week for Logan was Wolverine Origins, and I actually defended it. So you're not totally wrong. It's not. I think people may think it's a worse movie than it is because of what they did to Deadpool. But if you forget that or you don't know that he's Deadpool, it's actually not that bad of a movie.
Yeah, I just if you go into this with nostalgia, don't.
Yeah.
Go in this knowing the bar's low.
I said, if you're going this, you just want to see ninja fights. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean the action choreographic is the best part of this movie. The story is the worst part of this movie. So, if you want to sit in a theater by yourself and yell "fuck" at the screen, this is your movie to do it.
All right. Speaking of fuck at the screen, here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, 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 money.
Dollar.
All right. So this is now 2 weeks old. It actually came out the same week as Old, but I was not home to do this, so this is delayed a week. So it's actually been 2 weeks in the theaters now. This had a budget of 88 to 110 million. This thing fucking cratered. We talked a little bit about this on the Jungle Cruise review, but so I don't want to repeat myself too much. But yeah, this thing is currently sitting at 29.4 million as of this writing. So 2 weeks at the box office, and it's barely made $30 million on an 88 to 110 million dollar budget. This is a huge loss for Paramount and MGM, Skydance, and Hasbro. Not good.
No, not good at all.
It debuted at number 2 behind Old, which was for Universal. Its domestic weekend take for that weekend, which was July 23rd to July 25th, was 13 million to Old's 16 million. It knocked Black Widow out of the second place spot. That same weekend, Joe Bell debuted at number 11. Something called Camelot first installment debuted at number 17. Cat Video Fest 2021 debuted at 23. Once I Was Engaged 24. Alley and Settlers 27 and 28. Mandibles and Without Getting Killed or Caught 32 to 33. A lot of these are like independent limited release movies. And Hereafter at number 35, and then Victim of Love at 47. Just a quick look at the worldwide box office in case you haven't listened to our Jungle Cruise review. At 29 million, this thing currently sits worldwide at 50. Between The Little Things, which was day and date on HBO Max in fucking January, and Master, which I don't even know what that is. It's doing better than Chaos Walking. Good for it, but not as good as Spirit Untamed at number 43. So anyway, for those that care, the worldwide box office is Hi Mom, Detective Chinatown 3, Fast 9, Godzilla vs. Kong, Black Widow, Quiet Place 2, Cruella, The Conjuring, Impasse, and Chinese Doctors. Like I said, this week the number one movie was Jungle Cruise. It's so it's even further down. If you go back to the weekend box office, and again we talked about this already, but for those that care, the weekend box office for this weekend, it actually fell to number 7. It went from 2 to 7 in 1 week. Not good, people. That's usually that's almost a 70% drop from where it was, and that's a change in the amount of theaters. With a positive change, it added like 19 theaters from where it was. Yeah, this is gonna have the people at but Top Gun Maverick better do well because right now Paramount's not looking great. Oh crap! I can't look at this. You used to be able to see what studios were releasing what, and it used to be a fun chart for me to review, and so you could kind of see like where things were per studio. But like on the one hand, I mentioned this earlier, Paramount did well with The Quiet Place Part 2, but like its other pictures this year, not so much. Just a quick look here. Oof. I can't even find another. I can't even find another one for Paramount.
It's bad. I mean, it's not a good year to be Paramount.
No, and they're a struggling studio anyway. We keep joking about them being bought by one of the bigger studios. I could see them being bought by Comcast, NBC, Universal at this point. I don't know how well their streaming service done. I know that they're falling over themselves to get stuff out, but like they just had a they pulled something from the theaters and they put it straight to this streaming service and everyone hated it. So who knows how well it did. And that was Mark Wahlberg's sci-fi picture Infinite. I know they had the SpongeBob thing there for a bit. I can't even tell you what all else is on Paramount Plus. I'm sure it's struggling against like HBO Max, Disney Plus, and Peacock at this point. All right. If there's not, Jason, I'll give you just a moment here to kind of weigh in if you got anything to say. If not, we'll move on to Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I mean, I've pretty much bamboozled this to death. I've lambasted him. I'm beating a dead horse now.
What? Did you say beating a dead horse?
Yes. Yes. Got to get your shit in.
Yep, certainly do.
So, yeah, I mean, I had high expectations because of the nostalgia value. He is one of the better G.I. and more recognizable G.I. Joe characters. So they did have high expectations for me. First, the teaser trailer, loved, got me excited.
Here's a question for you.
Why I agreed to do this.
Here's a question for you. Do you think this is salvageable at this point, or do you think G.I. Joe on the big screen is dead?
It's dead. The only way you could save this is to get a John Cena Rock buddy comedy with The Rock as Roadblock and Cena as Duke.
See, I was going to go with Gung Ho. I
Oh,
think
okay.
I think they
No.
need a Roadblock gung ho buddy picture road trip movie.
No. Roadblock and Shipwreck with Cena being Shipwreck.
Oh God, could you imagine? Dude, I
There we
love
go.
Ship. Do you remember last thing, and then we'll move on? But do you remember that episode of GI Joe where Shipwreck like starts having hallucinations? That's
I
my
have not,
favorite
man.
one.
I have not watched G.I. Joe in ages. I want to go back and watch all the dubbed
Mhm.
GI Joe episodes that's dubbed. I'm gonna have to get with Jesse because I know Jesse has them saved somewhere, and I want to have him to give me the link because what was it? Something about pork chops.
Pork chop sandwiches.
Yeah. So those things were great. I remember when those first came out. But yeah, I would love to find the original GI Joe on a streaming service and just binge it.
Hang on, because I know at one point it was on Netflix. Let's see here. This is all live, ladies and gentlemen. I'm looking at my phone. Woo!
Yeah.
Let's see here. GI. Come on, stupid thing.
GI Joe
G-
stream.
GI Joe.
Uh,
Yeah. It is
Amazon
currently
Prime.
it is currently available on Tubi.
Yeah, I was gonna say Tubi and Amazon Prime was something. So yeah, I might have to watch that.
All right.
Uh,
So let's get to Rotten Tomatoes. Ladies and gentlemen, the critical review.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
The critical review is brought to you by Grammarly. Grammarly's AI-powered products help people communicate more effectively. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and nearly everywhere else you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, and spelling mistakes while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary, and suggesting style improvements. To download Grammarly today, go to getgrammarly.com/W2M Network. Again, it's getgrammarly.com/W2M Network to download Grammarly for free. All righty. As you can see on the screen, if you're watching the video, for those of you just listening, the critics didn't love it. It has a 37% rating, but audiences were okay with it. 74%. I would imagine, a lot of the audiences were like my kids, like, oh, cool, cool car scene, cool ninja fights, not particularly giving this a tremendous amount of thought. Costumes look cool, so I would imagine that's where a lot of people landed with this. The critical consensus reads, far from silent and not particularly deadly, Snake Eyes serves as a step for the G.I. Joe franchise, thanks in no small part to Henry Golding's work in the title role. Yeah, he was fine. None of the problems with this movie are his fault as a performer. The audience says the story isn't great, no shit, and the characters don't make much of an impression, but a great cast and lots of entertaining action makes Snake Eyes a fun solo adventure for the fan favorite hero. Yeah, okay, so people were not giving this a lot of critical thought here. Let's see if any critics liked it. Not too many. There's a lot of rotten here. But Stephen Procopi of Third Coast Review says, fans of straight-up martial arts movies have the most to enjoy here, and G.I. Joe fans will likely be left wanting more. I have a feeling one of the reasons why Robert didn't want to do this is he is a huge fan of martial arts movies, and if he were here right now, he'd be pulling out what's left of his hair saying, no, the fights were not that good. This was not the high end of martial arts fighting.
no, Robert would have probably had an aneurysm watching this movie.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he would have unfriended me and you both if we made him watch this movie.
Rachel Wagner of rachelsreviews.net. Henry Golding is a movie star in this fun martial arts style action movie. Okay, that's not a review, madam. That is a statement.
I would hope he's a movie star because he has starred in movies. Hello, Captain Obvious.
Wow. Why are we not on Rotten Tomatoes if that's the bar?
Yeah, I mean, you and Robert could definitely surpass that review. I have a feeling.
Holy shit. Tom Santilli of Movie Show Plus. Snake Eyes could very well be the start of something special, a cinematic universe that at least has the depth of character and storylines to eventually go toe-to-toe with Marvel, with an albeit a smaller but much more fervent fan base. Okay, but Marvel started with Iron Man. This is like starting with Captain Marvel.
No, this is like starting with Thor: The Dark World.
Okay. Bob Chipman of Movie Bob Central. For what the material demands, they do put a solid script. Oh, Jesus Christ. For what the material demands, they do put a solid script to this as action figure ninja movies go. All right. Let's just move on. Jana Manji of Age of the Geek. This isn't a good story or good cinema. You are correct. It's just good to see Hasbro coming to a better solution than Marvel did with Doctor Strange or Iron Fist. Oh, go fuck yourself. Did he just say that's a virtue signaling thing. Yeah,
did he
she's
just say Doctor Strange?
He, she, or it, or they is pissed that the wise one, the old one, the magician one, whoever the fuck the character was, the ancient one,
the great one,
the great and powerful Oz. The ancient one was a Celtic white woman and not an Asian guy, and people are still pissed that Iron Fist, who has never been Asian, who has always been a blonde white guy, was a blonde white guy in Iron Fist. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be a line that you draw where you stick to the IP and you don't pander. Now, granted, there's some things you can pander. Was I okay with the great and powerful Oz ancient one? It doesn't matter to me because I don't give a fuck. She served a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It's like okay, we want him to be of Oriental. We want more women strong female roles. Okay, you get one, but she's not Asian.
Wrong. Oh, but then you get we want more representation of Asian cultures. Okay, but not those Asians. These Asians over here. Fuck.
Yeah, you're never going to make anybody happy, and when you try, you're going to piss another set of people off. Nobody's going to be 100% happy. So why not do what the fuck you're going to do and not fucking worry about who's pissed off? In 100 years, none of that'll matter.
Kevin Carr, a fat guy at the movies, who we love to read his reviews because he's so very insightful. It's familiar, but it's a nice little action movie.
Yes,
it doesn't take much, does it?
It's familiar. Wow, it's got nostalgia value, and it's an action movie. Back to you, Bob.
Ollie, what's the weather out there? Raining, sideways.
Yeah, that's
what kind of soup you making? Chunky. God,
that's the gist. That's the gist of it. It's like let's take the most obvious comment we can make and make it and be heralded as a reviewer on Rotten Tomatoes.
Brilliant, just fucking brilliant. Speaking of brilliant, Gene Kaplan and her husband Dave. I'm going to read them both here. Gene Kaplan and David Kaplan of Kaplan versus Kaplan. So here's what Gene had to say. Other than one too many fight scenes, Snake Eyes is wildly entertaining and a true summer blockbuster. And for more of that kind of insight at that level, an action thriller that will satisfy a new generation of martial arts fantasy lovers. No, because nobody who really gets into martial arts movies is gonna dig this. This was blah even for a ninja fight movie.
Okay, so let's digest this. Let's take a ninja movie that have fight scenes. Yeah, that's the basis. Why would you bitch if there's too many fight scenes in a ninja and a martial arts?
I don't think there were enough. This movie drags at points like that. Like I was really surprised my son liked it as much as he did, because this is the kid who watched the Channing Tatum one, Channing Tatum G.I. Joe movie earlier today, and was like, less talky, more fighting. Like, all right, but you got through Snake Eyes just fine.
Yeah, I mean, it does have that lull in there where it has like a really good fight scene, and then it just like has an abrupt stop right after it, and just completely derails the momentum from the fight scene.
All right,
So
last one. Go ahead. Go ahead, finish.
I was going to say, if these are the reviews that people get paid for, we're in
Yep.
the wrong fucking business.
We really are. Damon Fudge of KCCI, Des Moines, Iowa. Snake Eyes is multiple steps above the previous two entries into the G.I. Joe franchise. As for the film itself, this is a serviceable popcorn summer entertainment actioner. I mean, so I suppose, but doesn't mean it's good or competent.
Saying it's the best of the three is like saying you're the richest homeless guy on the street.
Tallest midget.
Yeah, I mean, there's a low bar. I mean, the bar is the bar is so low you could just basically trip over it.
All right, that wraps it up for our Snake Eyes review. We're all no more from me, thanks. I'm driving. Earlier today, we reviewed Jungle Cruise. That's up in the archives. Tomorrow, as a companion piece to Jungle Cruise, we're looking at another. We've already done Tomorrowland. We've done the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Those are all up in the archives for those of you looking for reviews of the theme park attractions that were turned into movies. We did Seekers of the Weird, which was never actually realized as a theme park attraction, but they took the sketches that the guy drew for the theme park attraction and made a comic book out of it. So Alexis Hana and I did that. And as for a companion piece to this G.I. Joe movie, we re-released our alternative commentary for the G.I. Joe animated movie, Cobra, with Burgess Meredith as Globulus. That was a fun time. My kid running around yelling butt crack. That was the excitement for me. So that's up. Jesse has a more modern from, I think, Image Comics, G.I. Joe versus Transformers that he did as a syndicated source material. That's up in the archives. And then we're closing this out and, for fuck's sake, moving on from G.I. Joe. Myself and Sean Comer are, in fact, going to review G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra, and G.I. Joe Retaliation, and that'll be up, in theory, this weekend for you. And then that's it. We are moving on to Suicide Squad, and then Free Guy, Loki, and then at the end of the month, Candyman. And I think you'll be back for Candyman, correct?
I'll be back from Candyman, and in what is today's date? Today's the 3rd. In 12 days, me and you will be doing a triple feature.
That's right. Fatherhood, Good on Paper, and Lockdown.
Yeah, so I've got 2 more shows with you this lovely, lovely August month. So I'm really looking forward to the triple play. Kind of got the fatherhood one in there. I kind of really think that's going to be something me and you will be able to relate to and have a really good discussion on from everything I've seen on it. And then Candyman, I don't know how I'm going to feel about it because my childhood was tormented by the original to the point where for the week after I watched it, I had blankets or towels over every mirror in my house thinking that I was going to die.
I'm not looking forward to this. I've never seen I'm not the world's biggest fan of horror to begin with, but I do it because, it's a genre that you guys, the rest of you guys enjoy. And I can't say no to everything and then expect you guys to say yes to everything. That's not fair. So I'm going to put myself through this. And I'm also going to put myself through the first 3 Candyman movies because we're doing a Long Road to Ruin on that. But I'm not looking forward to any of this. And the only thing I'm kind of hanging on to is #Black folks. Otherwise, I have no reason. Nothing that connects me to this movie at all. I'm literally doing it for content and for the sake of friendships and partnerships.
The first one really good, and the next 2 sharp decline. I mean, Hellraiser type decline.
Fantastic. All right. So
just to let you know on that one.
Alrighty. And then in September, you're hosting an NFL Tripped Up Trivia. Yes. So
if anybody is listening to this and wants to participate, shoot me a DM on Twitter at TZLEY822, and we'll see if we can get you on the show.
All right. Real quick, talk about your second and short from the Cheap Seats Fantasy Football Podcast.
All right. So you can find me. Me and Tyler just dropped I think it was our 4th episode. We'll be debuting Thursday. where we talk about all things fantasy football. I kind of revised the cheap seats forum. You can find us on Twitter, on TikTok, anywhere you listen to any of your favorite podcasts. Look for the Second and Short Pod. It's me and one of my league mates, Tyler. A bunch of other league mates pushed us together, said that we definitely need to do a fantasy podcast together. And I've not had this much fun hosting from the cheap seats since me and Jesse Starcher done it together. It is definitely a fantasy football something I love. So definitely check it out. Hit me up on Twitter or Tyler up on Twitter. I'm TZLEY822 on Twitter, or you can look up Second and Short Pod on Twitter and TikTok. We definitely dropping content almost every day on TikTok and YouTube, everywhere. So definitely check us out.
Cool. All right, that's it. That's our review of Snake Eyes. Thanks for listening. Until next time, be well, be safe, and behave.